I think right here is about where we were yesterday, right, when the bell rang. It was such a good day. We made such progress.
Is that sarcasm?
No.
We did.
We made a lot of progress yesterday. I would expect that we'll finish today.
I only have the first thing.
Wait, what?
We're going to finish the lecture today. Today's Wednesday. Oh dear, so the plan won't work. We are going to finish today. So we're going to have to, yeah, we'll do homework tonight. Hopefully you started early so you wouldn't have to do it over the weekend. We'll do homework tonight. We'll go over homework tomorrow. I'll assign a specific homework problem for review for Friday. You'll turn it in and you'll take a Chapter 5 quiz.
Friday?
Yes.
With the WOD quiz?
With the WOD quiz. It'll be an abbreviated quiz. It'll be short.
Sweet.
Your abbreviated is.
Did you just say my abbreviated isn't abbreviated? Yeah, it is.
Really?
Yeah.
30 questions is abbreviated.
That was short.
Short, it was
That was shorter than the first one.
It was 38.
I'm not even gonna complain.
Okay. So, if you can't just snap your fingers and change how much you're producing, your elasticity is not very great. So, we've already said farm production, pretty much all agriculture is fairly inelastic in terms of its supply. I mean, if you are running a cattle ranch, you can't just, well, I guess you could just go out to the field and shoot the cows, but you don't just decrease your production overnight. And it's not like you just say, well, okay, I won't sell them, because that's a whole lot of added cost for you as well, because then you have to keep feeding them. And yet things that you can just make or not make. For instance, I'm an ice cream shop. Can I alter my supply? Yeah, I just don't make the ice cream. Okay. All right. So in the example that brought to you by global warming, supply of beachfront property is harder to vary and less elastic than the supply of new cars. So Ford just shuts down a couple of factories for a few weeks, and all of a sudden, boom, decreased supply of new cars. How would you go about decreasing supply of beachfront property? There is pretty much a fixed amount of beachfront property in the world. It's a geological issue, not necessarily an economic one. If sea levels go down, you have more beachfront property. If sea levels come up, you have a little less, but you still have beachfront property. If it touches the ocean or the Wawa, it is beachfront property. You guys are looking confused by this. You'd have to make the water go away to decrease the supply of beachfront property. What? That's just your faces? Those are your default faces? So while I have snarky resting face, you guys just have the resting face? Is that what you're... Okay. All right. So price elasticity for... I won't even go as far as to say most goods, but for a lot of goods, price elasticity gets greater the longer the time frame you talk about. Because if I am a farmer, my price elasticity in the short run is pretty much zero, right? If I've already got the field planted, I'm producing it, correct? But if we talk in terms of years, for sure, I don't have to plant as much, or I might sell off some land, okay? Or I could increase my supply by buying some land or planting more or planting fields that I let go fallow. But it takes time. That is an important consideration when you're talking about supply elasticity, is to consider time frame. Okay? let's talk about supply elasticity of a certain experimental Ebola treatment that was used on the first 2 Ebola patients. And it did work. And then there isn't any more, right? Because we're in a short time frame. But if people could just hold off on getting Ebola long enough for the manufacturer to make more of the Ebola treatment drug, I know, it's inconsiderate. It's inconsiderate. Did the 4th guy arrive at Emory? There's a 4th doctor who has it. They were bringing him over to Emory University. Atlanta, where the first 2 went.
Aren't they taking the blood of the first 2 and like with the antibiotic?
That's called convalescent treatment, where you take somebody who's it has to be exactly the same blood type. It has to match some other stuff too. So, and they have to be willing to have their blood taken. I mean, there are certain constitutional protections against somebody just coming in and going, "I'm taking your blood." Thank heavens for that. What? Well, and one would assume that because they're doctors, but we don't know for sure. Okay.
Do they know if they're the same blood type?
I don't know, because that would be a HIPAA violation for them to release that information.
Oh, true.
All right. I feel like it's practice time.
Yeah.
You've had plenty of time to absorb now. You had all night to think about this and study, right, Sherm? How many hours did you study econ last night? 4 hours last night. Wow. That is awesome. That is awesome. Because you guys didn't have tennis practice, right?
Yeah, we did.
So you had all that extra time. He doesn't play tennis? Well, he still had extra time because you guys didn't have tennis practice. So you guys got together. All right. I am giving you these facts: that beachfront property supply is inelastic and supply of new cars is elastic. All right? I'm giving you the condition that population growth causes demand for both to double. So when it says at each price quantity demanded doubles, what's that mean for you in terms of what the graph looks like? The whole curve shifts. So for you guys, demand looks like this. Yes. So the whole curve. Yes. Okay? For which product will price change the most, and for which product will quantity change the most? I think you're going to need to graph both beachfront property and new cars. Yes, grab some scratch paper, by all means. That's that colored paper up on the top there. I think your homies are hollering for some scratch paper handout, Tone. He's a giver.
I'm pumped for that movie to come out.
What movie?
The Giver.
It's already out.
Is it really?
It's just like it hasn't gotten made. Like,
Is it gone already?
no, it's still.
If it hasn't gotten the hype, it's probably not that good.
It is, no, that's cool.
Have you seen it yet, Kiki?
Jeff Bridges.
Well, I'm just
Don't
saying.
judge.
Aaron wants to go.
Do you have to put supply on it? Well, if you don't put supply on it, how are you going to judge quantity and price? Oh, it's definitely better if you draw them as elastic or inelastic as according to their Well, at least since we're talking about supply, you need to make the supply curves look elastic or inelastic.
Just make the fan curves regular for now.
Yeah. Sherm, how's your practice looking back there? Hold it up, show me.
I'm working on it.
Uh-huh. P goes on the left, Q goes underneath the x-axis. I think Mr. Herndon is ready to go.
Still looking at you.
Well, if you've got time to be looking at me, you can come on up and graph beachfront property for us.
Alright, I'll come up.
You can erase the email instructions.
Come up, go.
You need to watch the That's a Raven night. Hand up, know the answer, hand down, don't know.
Isn't hand up, know the answer, hand down, don't know kind of the universal?
Hand or hedge?
Well,
Whichever.
it's AP, so you're all fair game. Whoa, hang on. We gotta have room for 2 graphs, so scoot left or right a little.
One for beachfront, one for cars.
Yeah, but you only need to do beachfront.
Oh, okay.
Huge x-axis.
Well, it's inelastic, so you don't need as much x-axis.
It's true.
Apparently, his present supply of x-axis is a little inelastic. B. Whoa!
Hey, put the labels.
Don't put the label right in the middle. You gotta put the label at the end, or you're gonna have trouble reading.
These are unsaid rules.
These are what?
Unsaid rules that you're teaching me right now.
Yes.
Oh, bro.
Well, yes. I kind of expect you'll learn by example when it comes to that.
Yeah. It's like an unsaid rule, yeah, exactly. Alright, so
So
I said that.
underneath it, write the summary. What happens to price and quantity? Underneath it. So P does what?
Increases and quantity demands.
You can just call it Q.
Q, if we say like that's the one that we can't. Like, we don't.
That only happens when both of them change. Supply hasn't changed.
Well, I'll say
Read the graph.
yeah, it gets more. There's quantity demand rises. Yes.
Okay. Do I have a volunteer for cars?
I think Aaron wants to go. Dude, what?
Shell? Bring it on up, Shell. Come on.
I don't know.
You can't graph cars?
Come on, Shell, you can do it.
What don't you know? Come on up. Come on up. Let's figure it out together.
Come on, Shell, be a beast.
That was a nice right angle.
What's the first thing you got to do?
Do another.
Very first thing you do when you're drawing a graph. Attaboy. Okay. So we have demand for cars, yes.
Can we not draw in brown? That'd be cool.
We have demand for cars.
I just can't read it.
Demand.
Can't even read it.
Draw a demand curve, Chris,
Well, I know what the graph is.
and label it.
Stupid.
Okay. Without actually drawing on the board, show me what an elastic supply curve is going to look like. Use your finger. Use your finger on the board and show me what an elastic supply curve is going to look like.
I literally
Wow, those are powerful.
Have a seat, Chris. Have you been here the past few days? Have you studied this at all at night?
Not yet.
Have you read the chapter?
Not yet.
Chris, your future looks increasingly dim unless you begin those habits. Anna, can you do it? Anna thinks so. Anna.
Nice.
Okay, that looks like a pretty elastic supply curve. We have a new demand curve. Price goes up. Quantity goes up. Okay, so the question is, for which one does price increase more? Beachfront. And for which one does quantity increase more? You should, you may have a seat, Anna. Good job. You should be able to figure that out just on the slope of the supply curve. That if you move along an elastic supply curve, it's going to increase quantity faster than it will price. I don't know why it's not parallel. Probably because at lower prices, people want even more. Yes, sir.
So for our graph, we make that inference that people want more, keep drawing.
You can keep going parallel until I teach you otherwise. We'll eventually get to a point where that will matter, but for right now, keep it simple. Okay. So, understood then? Seems like another one of those things that's just kind of common sense, but is difficult when you actually try to apply it. Okay. You guys should give Chris a hand. It takes guts to get up here and... Yes, Aaron. Oh, a hand? Maybe you should give him a hand like this to help him remember to study.
I'm trying to cuss him.
Okay. So remember, price elasticity of demand varied along the curve, right?
Yeah.
Do you suppose that can happen with supply? Oh, yes, it does. But it happens for slightly different reasons. There's capacity limits. At a certain point, you might not be able to make that much more. I'm a baker, and I have 2 ovens, and even if I bake 24/7, I can still only bake so much. There's a limit to how much I can continue to increase my supply. Okay. And you're sitting there thinking, so go buy another oven. Ceteris paribus. Okay?
We all thought it.
If we had class t-shirts, that'd have to be, oh, you think so? No, ceteris paribus. All right.
No one would understand.
That's the whole point of a class t-shirt, isn't it? It's an inside joke, right? All right. So, at the low part of our curve here, elasticity is greater than 1. Could you do that math if you had to?
Yes.
Well, percent change in quantity by the midpoint formula. It's 200 minus 100 divided by 150. Good. Oh, you're going to go down and work on the board? Oh, good. And you're going to go down and work on the board?
All three of those need ice.
Yes, and the Macavickas have to be spread out, not boom, 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 but. And 4 minus 3 is 1 divided by 3.5. Okay, so you end up with a number that's greater than 1. Okay. I cannot do that in my head. Kyle can't even do that in his head. What? I'm chill. I'm protein Hoke. I need food. All right. Now up here, you end up with an elasticity of less than 1. The more you make, the harder it is to make more. But that makes sense, isn't it? Think about it this way. The higher your grade, the harder it is to raise your grade. Right? Your grade becomes inelastic the higher it gets. And the lower your grade is, the more elastic it is. Right?
I wish I was that kid that had like 102 in the class and get 100 and something drops your grade. I wish I was that kid.
That always, and those kids always get so mad.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, shut up. I feel like that's stupid.
Oh, I need PO.
Okay.
Okay, that was weightlifting.
Now, we started with price elasticity of demand, and then we did price elasticity of supply. It's time to make your lives harder. This is income elasticity of demand. I am glad that I can't read minds because I think there was just an overwhelming wave of suicidal thoughts.
Today's National Suicide Day.
I know. National Suicide Prevention Day, not National Suicide Day.
You know what I'm saying?
That's like when people say, donate money for breast cancer. No, let's not donate money for breast cancer. Let's donate money for breast cancer cure or prevention or awareness. But breast cancer doesn't need your money.
Give me your money.
That might be a stick up you'd enjoy, Aaron. All right. Income elasticity of demand measures responsiveness of demand to changes in consumer income. So if all of a sudden consumer income has doubled, do you suppose the elasticity of demand for a luxury cruise is a little less elastic? Again, falling into the category of, well, that makes sense. There's an equation. Let's guess.
I feel like you're implying that we could all just go on a luxury cruise.
Let's guess. Income elasticity of demand equals what? Not from your notes. Let's figure it out.
They're not on here.
Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in income. Very good. Does it still fit on the whole graph thing?
It's going to be on the same graph.
Like not price anymore, just now.
Yeah, it's not price elasticity, it's income. Now, are we going to have to understand something else to deal with this because it's consumer income that's changing? Normal goods and inferior goods. So which one do you suppose this applies to? Normal goods. Good. So for a normal good, income elasticity is going to be greater than 0. What do you suppose income elasticity is for inferior goods? Less than 0. The opposite.
So is it like how much they're willing to spend on goods?
It's not necessarily, well, it's partially how much they're willing to spend. It's also yeah, I guess how much they're willing to spend is the way to put it. And the difference between inferior and normal goods is, am I willing to buy it at all? Right? If I'm on food stamps, okay, I can get a lot more for my food stamps if I'm just buying inferior goods. I end up with a lot less in my shopping cart if I'm looking for normal goods. Does that make sense to you, Michael? I can get a lot more beanie weenies and bologna than I can ribeye steak.
I thought normal goods were the. Oh wait, no, never mind. I'm thinking of something else. Yeah, the cheap ones.
Cheap's not a good economic word to use there, but yes, as long as it means that you're understanding. Kraft cheese slices versus Munster or Gouda. All right. Oh my gosh, are you so excited? There's even more elasticities.
I'm about to like cry.
Oh. If you were a girl, you'd say, I can't even.
I can't even.
That was rude. That's my favorite line that girls use.
That was rude.
That was rude.
That's
It
my
gets
least
used a
favorite.
lot.
That's my least
Tell me
favorite.
you don't hear it like on the daily.
Actually, I don't hear that. All right. This one wins an award for most confusing name. Cross-price elasticity of demand. I think I just gave Ethan an aneurysm. That was a serious wince back there. It was like, it's like I was making him take nasty tasting cough syrup. It'll make you better if you understand. Open up and learn it. Cross-price elasticity of demand is what you deal with when you're comparing one good to another. So you deal with this with related goods oftentimes. I'll give you the equation. It's the percentage of change in quantity demanded for good 1 over the percentage change in the price of good 2. And that is your cross-price elasticity of demand. How many of you are going to spend some time studying this tonight? It makes me a little sad that that wasn't unanimous, but I'm assuming that the people who didn't raise their hand are too busy writing.
That's true.
I'm just going with that, and it'll make me feel better. I'll tell you what, I will be studying this tonight. This is tough stuff.
What is this good for?
Substitutes. And substitutes bestest friends. Complements.
So basically with these last two equations, we can figure out if the good is a complement, a substitute, or normal or inferior.
Yes, you can figure out if it's a complement, a substitute, a normal good, or an inferior good. Thank you, Jake. You could have lost an eye. Yeah, he's a sweet boy. He doesn't always think through everything. It's a lot of unintended consequences there. The only thought that was going on there is have keys, must get to Hoke. Presence of a human in between. No, this one has real world applications.
Oh my god, this is the last slide.
What?
This is the last slide.
You guys have dealt with cross-price elasticity of demand a lot in your lifetimes. You just haven't known to call it cross-price elasticity of demand. So I would encourage you to bring this up at dinner tonight when somebody's complaining about the increase in the price of X. And you'd say, well, a thorough understanding of the concept of cross-price elasticity of demand would indicate that we perhaps should be purchasing more good Y instead.
Wow. My mom would love me for that.
My parents would be like, you're wrong.
Did you say you'd get backhanded? Wow. Sit further away, Michael. Okay. As gas costs soar, people buy small cars. Cross-price elasticity of demand. Gas prices go up, you find ways to drive less by sitting at home and taking your courses online instead of going to campus. As gas prices go up, people start digging into the back of the garage and dusting off their old bike and having to repair flat tires and oil change and fix brakes, right? Or this is my favorite one. This is for real. I didn't believe it. I went and looked it up. This is for real, an actual headline. And I just thought to myself, if only. Because if I could get my hands on a camel, I would have a lot less lawn mowing expenses, I would buy less fertilizer for my flower beds, and I would spend less on gas. So it would be like a win-win-win.
You'd be that person on the
I would
street
ride a
riding your
camel.
camel. Like the people in Pennsylvania that like ride their horses.
Oh, well, here you go. Along those lines, I'm going to trade in my John Deere combine and go back to mules.
Do people actually do that? Like,
But they wouldn't profit.
For real. Your productivity would plummet. Yes, that is an excellent point, Connor. Your commute time, putting the camel on I-80 to downtown would also greatly impact your productivity. But you would save money on gas. So,
I'd rather pay for gas.
That guy is very dumb.
But lose money on
You
gas.
can't. Can a
Maybe he's
camel
just
even
really
survive in the
motivated
grass,
and he will just
he's just making a point. I will no longer support the oil. Yeah. That one is an example of if your parents have ever said to you, you're just cutting off your nose to spite your face, right? Where you do something to make a point, but it actually punishes you more. Well, fine. If I can't go Friday night, I just won't go anywhere with my friends all weekend. Okay, but you're just cutting off your nose to spite your face. You think you're making a point, but whatever. Yes, Connor.
I heard on the radio this morning that Netflix and Reddit are like slowing down their websites today in protest of some
Net neutrality.
net neutrality.
Netflix and Reddit are slowing down their websites in protest of net neutrality.
When everyone's live.
I'm pretty sure.
Well, a certain segment of the population will have their day ruined for sure. I mean,
Isn't that kind of similar to like?
I mean, if I have time to watch Netflix, then it'll be me.
but for a one-day slowdown, that's not going to have a huge impact. I mean, it will definitely maybe do something to increase awareness. And then there will be people who try to Netflix or try to Reddit, and then they just can't even.
I can't.
And then it'll be on Twitter, and then Twitter's gonna. shut
And
down.
you know what? That is rude.
That's so rude.
That's
This
so
is
rude.
your only day off, and you're just trying to watch some Netflix.
That's so Raven.
Oh.
Yes.
It's a
I'll show that to you in 7th hour.
Okay. So end of chapter problems today. We will do questions first tomorrow. This is an on your honor thing. If we get in here and only 6 of you have done any of the problems, I'm nailing you. Yes, I will have a bag of nails and I will throw them at you. And then I will select a problem to have you write down and turn in so that those of you who are lazy and do not do the homework get 0 credit.
You should have told us that. Told us that. It's like now,
What's the book work?
You want me to throw nails at you.
no,
Is that-
like you should.
Aaron likes it that
No,
way.
like you should have told us like on our honor. Like you should have said like.
Aaron
I
likes
believe in fair warning.